Last year's trip took us all the way to Alaska and Tuktoyaktuk at the Arctic Ocean. It was an amazing adventure, and we were happy to have our son Michael along with us for the ride. This year, Michael couldn't join us, but we were still excited to do an East Coast loop in Canada and the United States. We departed from our home in Amherstburg, Ontario, crossing into Quebec, and then heading north taking the Trans-Labrador Highway to Cartwright, and then south taking the ferry to the island of Newfoundland and taking another ferry to Nova Scotia. Then circumnavigating Prince Edward Island and back through New Brunswick into the United States through Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York, and back into Canada at Niagara Falls and then home. Stick around, share the adventure with us. Today we would get back on the highway and make our way to St. John's. It was supposed to have started raining already, but for now it was just overcast and windy. We were grateful for that. We headed into town for breakfast at Pitcher's and then enjoyed the scenic ride to the waterfront business area of Dildo. The popular Dildo Hollywood style sign was actually a gift from late night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel in 2019. Not long after we got back on the Trans-Canada Highway, the rain started. Sometimes heavy, but not too bad. Leslie had on her heated vest, but I was comfortable enough without it for the short, less than an hour ride to St. John's. Our first stop would be the Honda dealership to pick up the replacement footrest we ordered on Saturday. Big shout out to Terry at Honda One Powerhouse for getting this part so quickly. In minutes, we were back in business.
All right, smile.
We stopped in at a nearby McDonald's to get out of our wet gear, warm up, and have lunch. Leslie found a good deal for a hotel room at the Crossroads Inn and Suites for a couple of nights. We got changed, called for an Uber, and headed downtown to George Street. We were headed to Christian's pub to get Screeched In. The Screeching ceremony involves a shot of Screech rum, flambé bologna, kissing a codfish, and having a great time with a bunch of strangers. I'm a Newfoundlander, born and bred, and I'll be one till I die. I'm proud to be an islander, and here's the reason why. I'm free as the wind and the waves wash the sands. There's no place I would rather be than here in Newfoundland. Now in Montreal, the Frenchmen say that they own Labrador. In good and Indian Harbour where my father fished before. There's no place I would rather be than here in Newfoundland.
Let's bring the Royal Order of Screechers to order. I understand we got a bunch getting screeched in here today, hopefully becoming right proper honorary Newfoundlanders. Now a scuff is a dance and a Newfoundland, a blue star is a beer, and it's pronounced Newfoundland. Not Newfoundland, not Newfoundland. Newfoundland is the oldest settlement in North America, the youngest province in Confederation, and the only rock that you can party on. My name is Skipper Lukey, and I is a Newfoundlander. Steve?
Yeah, thanks.
This right here is A real Newfoundland cosmos. Now, given the chance, this fish could have grown to the height of 6 feet tall and weighed as much as 250 pounds. Wow. This fish will not grow any more than this because it's dead.
He's coming around.
Shorty, can you help me? And Leslie, can you help me pass? Just keep passing them out there. There we go. Up the lips, over the gums, look out, going, here it comes. I'm gonna say it, you're gonna say it, we're gonna get through it in 3 simple segments, okay? Say deed I is.
Deed I is.
Me all cock.
Me all cock.
Long may your big jib draw.
Long may your big jib draw.
By the power vested in me, I now declare you all honorary Newfoundlanders.
After collecting our certificates, we headed over to O'Reilly's Irish pub for dinner. Great atmosphere, delicious food. Today was a rest day in St. John's, and we were excited to leave the luggage in the hotel, ride 2 up and explore Cape Spear, Fort Amherst, Jellybean Row, Signal Hill, and Quidi Vidi. Our first stop was the Cape Spear Lighthouse National Historic Site. It was a scenic but extremely windy ride up, but absolutely worth it. We had now reached the furthest, most eastern point in Canada. What a feeling of accomplishment, as this was the last of the 4 points that we have visited in the past year. Tuktoyaktuk Northwest Territories in the north, the Alaska-Yukon border in the west, Point Pelee National Park near our home in Ontario in the south, and now Cape Spear in the east. Cape Spear was much more than a bucket list checkmark, though. This historical gem not only featured the lighthouse, but was also a significant World War II fortification. Our next stop would be Fort Amherst. Honestly, there wasn't much to see. Parking is a bit down the hill, and it was quite a walk up the road to the lighthouse and older buildings that we couldn't enter. I would maybe skip this one. On our way to Signal Hill National Historic Site, we passed through Jellybean Row, which was very colorful. Everything is built on a hill here. Once at Signal Hill, we stopped in at the Visitor Center to view the exhibits and their movie theater. Of much importance to all of us, Guglielmo Marconi received the first transatlantic wireless signal there on December 12, 1901. Like your smartphone? Thank Mr. Marconi for his contribution to wireless communication. We headed back down the hill to our next stop, Quidi Vidi village. We arrived at our destination, Quidi Vidi Brewing Company, and took a patio table right next to the ocean and enjoyed a beer sampler flight, some wings and onion rings. We went for a walk around town and then hopped on the bike and headed back to the hotel. After breakfast at the big stop, we avoided the highway and took some back roads to our destination, the Argentia ferry terminal for our sailing to Nova Scotia. Our last day in Newfoundland was blessed with perfect weather. We took the Irish Loop Road through Bay Bulls, then turning off on 13, and skirted the Avalon Wilderness Preserve to Colorado. Road 91 turned out to be 30 kilometers of rough, very washboardy gravel road for us, all the way to Placentia, but it was nice to ride some dirt again. We took some time at the top of Castle Hill National Historic Site. All of these national parks and historic sites, being free this year, have saved us a considerable amount of money. We've enjoyed them very much. We hiked to the top of the hill, which had remnants of the structure and also some amazing views of the surrounding area. We arrived at the ferry terminal and joined the lineup of motorcycles. Our overnight sailing to Nova Scotia would take 16 hours and cover 280 nautical miles. I chatted with a bunch of riders that we had previously run into on our trip, while Leslie got as much work done as she could before we set sail. We rode onto the ferry and strapped down our bikes as good as we could, as we expected some rougher seas. What was left of Hurricane Erin was headed our way, but it looked like we might get ahead of it. We hit up the bar for a couple of pints of iceberg beer and found a table on the sun deck to enjoy the view as we headed out to sea. It got cold and windy very quickly, but the views were stunning. We had dinner at the ship's restaurant, checked into our pods, and enjoyed some live entertainment. Today was an exciting day. We were going to ride the world-famous Cabot Trail. After a nice breakfast on the ship, we unstrapped the bikes and disembarked. We really enjoyed the sailing with Marine Atlantic. We pointed the bikes towards Kelly's View Motel. A longtime friend of mine, Gertie, and her daughters moved to Nova Scotia recently and purchased the motel, and I was excited to see her again.
Hey! Good, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Got a nice spot here.
Even though it was still early in the day, Gertie had our room ready so that we could leave our luggage, shed a few pounds for our Cabot Trail ride. Her daughter Risa recommended we take the free Englishtown ferry to save a bit of time on our route. We stopped in at the Clucking Hen Cafe and Bakery for a coffee in Danish and some sightseeing advice from our waitress. So far, the Cabot Trail did not disappoint. Much of the road was full of twists and turns with rising and falling elevation and amazing views. We stopped in at the Ingonish Visitor Center and then a quick break at the beach to play in the surf. For a mid-afternoon break, we stopped in at the Rusty Anchor for a late lunch and then rode some of the best roads of the day with many switchbacks and high elevation views. We took another rest stop at the Chetty Camp Visitor Center to check out their exhibits. We stopped in at the Alexander Graham Bell National Historic Park, but unfortunately, we arrived 1 minute after they closed. That's okay, we were getting tired anyway. Eventually, we made it back to the motel and were pleasantly surprised to find a bottle of whiskey and wine courtesy of our friend Pete from back home. We also found a charcuterie board, cheese and grapes, and some wonderful desserts from Gertie and Risa. Thank you all so much. If you're riding the Cabot Trail, Kelly's View Motel is the place to stay. It was time to head south, so we took the scenic route along the Brosdor Lake to Boylston Provincial Park. We invited Gertie to have breakfast with us at the nearby Cedar House Bakery and Restaurant and said goodbye. I wish we had more time. Glad we took the East Bay Highway instead of the Trans-Canada. It was a relaxing, scenic ride along the lake with lots of hills, twists, and turns, winding its way through many picturesque small towns. We stopped for lunch at St. Peter's Canal National Historic Site and were treated to the swinging bridge in action, allowing a sailboat to cross. This canal was a 19th century feat of engineering, as this man-made canal joined the Atlantic Ocean and Brosdor Lakes. After a nice rest, we headed to the lighthouse to check out the view. Our destination for the day would be Boylston Provincial Park, which turned out to be a nice, small, quiet campground with self-check-in.
Are you securing the fortress?
We enjoyed a spaghetti dinner and were in the tent by around 8:30. It was so nice and quiet in the park, we fell asleep quickly. Today we skipped the highway and followed the beautiful marine drive to Halifax. We really enjoyed our quiet campsite in Boylston Provincial Park. After a quick breakfast, we were excited to hit the road. Instead of hopping on the Transcan to Halifax, we decided to take the more scenic marine drive route, which winds its way through some forest areas, but mostly along the Atlantic coast. It was an excellent choice. Once again, we were treated to twisty, hilly roads with amazing views and small towns that dotted the coastline. We decided to take a lunch break at the McPhee House Museum and Visitor Center in the picturesque town of Sheet Harbor. After exploring the museum and chatting with a rider from New Zealand, we got back on the road. After a quick Timmy's break at Musquodoboit Harbor, we set our sights on Dartmouth and then over the bridge to Halifax for a couple of days' rest. After crossing the Angus L. MacDonald Bridge and fighting some traffic, we finally arrived at our hotel, the Best Western Plus Chocolate Lake Hotel. We unpacked the bikes and relaxed for a bit before getting an Uber to take us to the Halifax boardwalk. We were craving Mexican food, so we had dinner at El Este Taqueria Tacos and Cerveza. After dinner, we enjoyed exploring the boardwalk area. Well done, Halifax. Leslie was in the mood for dessert, so we walked up the hill to the dessert yard at the Nova Center and had a nice banana split and cappuccino. It was nice having a rest day in Halifax. It would have been nicer if it wasn't pouring rain all day, but we pulled out the rain gear and took an Uber to the public gardens. The Halifax Public Gardens is a 16-acre formal Victoria garden founded in 1867 and designated a National Historic Site. It's recognized as the only remaining true Victorian garden in North America. This was definitely Leslie's jam. Next, we headed across the street to the Halifax Citadel historic site, which was quite an amazing structure. Unfortunately, the site was closing at 5 p.m. and it was already 4:30. Where did the time go today? We made the best of it and saw as much as we could before they closed up. I would highly recommend spending some time here. The Army Museum had some very interesting exhibits as well. From there, we walked down to the boardwalk and to the waterfront warehouse for dinner. We peeled off the dripping wet rain gear and dried up a bit. Leslie had a very nice beef Wellington, and I had the lobster roll. For dessert, we stopped in at Cow's Ice Cream. Who eats ice cream in the pouring rain? Leslie, that's who.